Bill, how does someone pitch a movie like this to you? What do you think what was the 30-second pitch on this movie?
Want to go to Japan? It's like, yeah.
Have you ever
Want to go to Japan and work with Nick Cage? Is like, yeah. You know, what do I have to pay? I mean, that's basically the pitch. And I was very excited about the prospect of, not to mention working with the director Sion Sonoin, whose work is really amazing. And the idea that this would be his first English language movie, that it was a mashup between samurai and the Wild West, and I'd play this kind of Colonel Sanders, boss hog, evil governor. It's like, come on, yeah. So it was an easy sell for me.
I would have her return to me post haste. And you, sir, I am told, are the man to do the job.
How is it communicating with the director, or him directing with you?
You know, it's interesting because he didn't really speak much English. Maybe he, you know, I mean, just period. I was, some of it came through a translator. And of course, that's never 100% accurate. But, you know, basically we, you know, fortunately that kind of work, a lot of it is an expression and hand gestures and, you know, like that means bad. And
as far as him really getting into, this is what I want, or this is, was that some of that lost? Was that left to you a lot?
I guess it was. I mean, you know, there wasn't much nuance. So fortunately, I wasn't really called on for a lot of nuance. So that was helpful. But I knew that script. I knew my lines. I pounded them many, many times so that I knew what I was doing. I knew the world. I knew my relationships with Nick and my bodyguard, Tak Sakaguchi, who played Yasujiro. You know, I knew basically my power. I knew where I was. And, you know, and I knew, you know, that I was kind of needling Nick, and I knew that, you know, the fun for me was him clicking that suit into place and knowing that if you mess up, son, you're going to blow up. And, you know, so all of that, it was kind of baked into the part. Plus I had that awesome white suit and the red gloves, which tells me I have blood on my hands. So it all kind of was all kind of baked in. And if there were certain things that Sion wanted me to do, you know, I got it through the translator, or I got it through his expressions. And, you know, it wasn't difficult. When we were doing the costume fitting and I had the hat on and the whole suit and the tie and the shoes and the socks, you know, but I still wasn't quite connected. But then I put on then they handed me the red gloves and it was like, okay, I get it now.
And speaking of the character, the voice is another really menacing, somewhat humorous on the face of it, but then it gets much darker as you go along. How do you develop the voice for this character?
When I was in Japan, when I was in Tokyo and in Kyoto, both, Kentucky Fried Chicken is very popular there. So there were lots of life-size statues of Colonel Sanders. So that certainly, you know, made an impression. My other inspiration was, I don't know if you remember that cartoon character, Foghorn Leghorn.
Of course.
Yes.
You know, hey boy, I'll tell you this, son. You know, so that was also my inspiration. You know, that just kind of organically came out. You know, Sion was okay with that, so just went for it.
I'm not a prisoner! Would you consider this a horror film? Because you like horror genre.
I love it. I don't really. You know, I kind of think of this as kind of a action adventure fantasy. You know, with some, I'm sure, horrific elements, but for the most part, it's more fantasy and certainly action adventure. Although, yeah, I love me some horror movies.
And Nick Cage, you mentioned at first that working with Nick Cage helped sell you on doing this. Why? And what was that? What was it like on set with a guy like Nick Cage?
Well, I'm a big fan of his whole career, his acting career. My wife, Lucinda Jenny, actually acted with him in Peggy Sue Got Married, which was one of his first movies with good old Francis Ford Coppola. And, so I've certainly watched and enjoyed his movies over the years. He's an Oscar winner. But recently he's been doing some pretty gonzo movies. One of my favorites of all times is Mandy, which he was amazing in. And right after that, there was a movie called The Color Out of Space, amazing in that as well. So he's kind of gotten this, I wouldn't really call it a second wind, but there's just this kind of energy that he has maybe grown into or somehow or discovered, whatever it is, that is so powerful and so hard ass. And so I was very excited about working with him. At the same time, I was intimidated because I was worried that he would, kind of look down his nose at me maybe and think, oh, this guy, but I found him right from the get-go. He was totally dedicated. He showed up. My first scene with him, he's wearing like a samurai diaper. And, it's late November, early December in Japan. It's cold. He's got nothing but a diaper on. He's standing in front of, like 100 people and just, totally focused, totally ready to go for it. And I found that absolutely admirable and And it just told me, we're bringing our A game here. We're going for it. And that's the way I like to work. And so I was right from the get-go. I was, totally in love with Nick Cage.
He was totally uninhibited, apparently.
Yeah. No self-consciousness. He knew his lines, no fiddling around in the trailer and, oh, I'm not ready for this yet. And I'm going to make people wait. None of that crap. He was just, let's get this thing, let's get it on. So that's how I like to work too.
Yeah, and I'm sure he was very excited about having crotch explosives being part of his character.
I think he actually enjoyed that. Fortunately, that was I think a metaphor.
Right. And it looked like you enjoyed doing that to him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
the governor is a sadist, so of course, and coy and kind of polite and southern, whatever, So I love doing that stuff.
Yeah, and you alluded to this. There's a lot of subtext here about capitalism, about greed, about nuclear energy and nuclear war. I mean, there's
and waste. Yeah, absolutely.
Politics, yes.
So there's a lot more going on here than meets the eye. And when you watch this movie, that also is part of the enjoyment of this, and your representation of capitalism and greed and power hunger. Power hunger was really nice to watch.
Throwing around the money and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, no, I love playing the bad guys.